Nixon-Kennedy debates would forever change the way Americans chose their presidents. Political rallies and old-fashioned handshaking became much less important than the image on the television screen.
Decision-making experience than your opponent.
The main thing that I want to do here is to just say how I'm inspired by the young people who are represented here, because I think that's the purpose ultimately of this foundation. And I want to tell just a brief story because Archbishop Tutu is here, one of my heroes, and let you know where I was when I was about your age.
Who's winning the 2016 presidential election? I'm not referring to the polls this time. I'm talking about each candidate's demeanor. Because in our visually based society, presentation and appearance are important to winning elections. The history behind this: in 1960, Richard Nixon won the presidential debate, but only if you were listening on the radio. For the citizens who were watching the debate on that newfangled invention called the television, JFK was the clear winner. Suddenly, an aspect of celebrity became part of the race to win the presidency. Personality became as important as policy, and appearance as important as experience. It's true to this day. President Obama used his extraordinary charisma to charm voters in 2008, which made up for the fact that his record was spotty and his associations sketchy. Voters didn't seem to mind, though. Blinded by his personal charm and golden speeches, they elected him twice. In this 2016 race, we've had time to watch the candidates perform on the debate stage. So who tops the field in personal appeal? Joining me now is motivational business speaker, Coach Ron Tunick. Ron, thanks for being here.
My honor. What an honor to be with you. Thank you, Liz. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So as a motivational speaker yourself, which candidate so far is best at connecting with his or her potential voters?
That's a great question. I think the candidate that looks the smoothest and the candidate that I think is appealing to a cross-section of the community right now is Dr. Carson. Because of his soft demeanor, it appeals to the female viewer more than the male. The Trump presentation, his approach is more interesting to males. The males are hunters, females are gatherers. So, guys like, we're going to follow somebody up San Juan Hill that's a fighter, and he comes across as that kind of individual.
And in your opinion, what makes Dr. Ben Carson appealing to women?
He's gentle. He's soft-spoken. He's not offensive. He speaks intelligently. He speaks so that you can understand him. And think about it. He was a doctor. So in our society, who do we trust the most? We trust university presidents. We trust firemen. We trust policemen. And we trust doctors. So the fact that his background, especially as an OBGYN and performing all the miracles that he did on children, is very appealing to women.
That's very interesting analysis. In a more general sense, when you're looking at the debate stage, and this is true for both Republican and Democrat debates, what characteristics or presentation of personality are unappealing in a general sense?
But we do business with people we like. Let's stop there and really be honest about something. When we're going to buy something from somebody, we generally buy from somebody that we like. Respect and the trust comes later. But if they have a charming personality, if they're interesting, if they say the right things, if their speech pattern, I was listening to do the intro. That's why Obama got into office. He sat in that Christian church for 20 years listening to the pastor preach. So when you listen to Obama, President Obama, think of him as a pastor in a church preaching to us. And that's how he comes across. Very deliberate, slow speaking. When you speak slower, you do create trust in your behavior. And that speech of his fooled us all. So that's how he got elected.
Now, you say that about slow speech, but when President George Bush spoke, and he spoke slowly and deliberately, people accused him of sounding dumb or of not knowing his information. What's the discrepancy there?
I don't think he spoke that slow, but when you look at his facial expressions, remember, it's not only your speech, it's how you say it, when you say it, who you say it to, and what your face looks like as you're expressing yourself. So President Bush had a lot of little what we call twitch motions. And those little twitch motions, those little movements of the head and movements of the eyes, they're a lot different than President Obama's movement. President Obama is very slow, very deliberate, looks around the room, looks up, looks down. He wants to invite you into his conversation, where Bush was more, he also had a nice personality, but more about directing his conversation at you, and Obama is trying to gather you in to his way of and style of thinking and talking and behavior.
All right, which candidate, in your opinion, and this, again, is both Republican and Democrat presidential candidates, which one needs the most coaching in their manner of presentation and speaking?
I like, personally, Chris Christie. I think if somebody could get a hold of him, remember, it's not only a personality contest, but do you look presidential? Do you act presidential? Are you somebody that in our hearts of hearts can we trust? And so if Christie is an ex-prosecutor, so if he could lighten up a little bit, become a little bit more friendly, maybe he's not a bad storyteller, but start telling a little bit more stories, start to deliver his message, better eye contact. His eye contact isn't as great as some of the other speakers. So if Christie is starting to also resonate a little bit in the polls. Now, remember, this last week, the horrible tragedy in France is given Trump a boost, is given Cruz a boost, and given Christie a little bit of a boost. So I think Christie has the most to gain because of his background. He legitimately has a background that would do very, very well against Hillary.
All right, let's do a little comparison here. So I've heard that whoever smiles most ends up ultimately winning, as long as the smile's sincere. But in the Democratic primary, Hillary Clinton smiles far more often than Bernie Sanders, yet Bernie Sanders is more liked as an individual when you put policies aside. Why do you think that is?
Well, let me go back to Marco. We left Marco out of the conversation. So Marco speaks, well, his syntax is better than all the other candidates, which means that he puts his words in an order that you can understand them. He puts his words in an inspirational message, a little bit different than some of the other candidates. So Marco is doing well in the polls for a little different reason. Now, Hillary, her background, remember, she's got 20 years of history that all the other candidates don't have that same history. She was married to the President of the United States. We don't need to get into what happened in the White House, but all of that stuff resonates with the voters. It stays with us.
So is that more important to voters than the presentation of her speaking, than her appearance in this case?
It's complicated. Yes, it's all of the above, because as we're listening to her, remember, the question I would ask is, if you're talking to a conservative like myself, I'm going to give you one answer. If you're talking to somebody on the left or a progressive, they're going to give you another answer. So I'm a conservative, so I'm going to give you an answer that's more friendly to the conservative candidates. And when I listen to Hillary speak, the first thing that comes up is I don't believe her. I believe that it's all manipulated. Her speech is manipulated. She has a staff that's telling her what to say, how to say it. I mean, I've been watching her for years. So it depends on the audience. She's very good one-on-one. She's very good with one or two people. She struggles in a group with, hundreds or thousands, where other candidates seem to do a little bit better. So the size of the group, who she's talking to, she'll probably do well in a one-on-one debate with any of the candidates.
I think that's really good analysis. I particularly like what you had to say about Marco Rubio, because that, not only is he naturally gifted in that area, I feel like that's one area that he's given specific attention to in the past few years preparing for this run, is how he connects with voters in the appearance sense, in the speaking sense, and how he crafts his message. As the primary continues, I hope you'll join us again, Ron, and I appreciate you coming on tonight. My final point is coming up. Don't go anywhere.